what I love is that there is just such a breadth to that learning. And for some people, that might be a qualification. For other people, it might be reading books, listening to podcasts, attending things like this. There's lots of different ways that you can develop and grow as a practitioner. And we can sometimes get a bit stuck in thinking that it has to be a qualification, or we have to do something that requires a huge amount of time. Whereas actually, you can log the books that you read, the podcasts that you're listening to, events like this. We even have networking drinks, which, while there might be some debate over whether they're worth CPD points, for me, they always add huge value, and I will always learn something from those conversations that will help me do something differently afterwards. And that's what it's all about. It's how are you having conversations and learning that will enable you to do something differently back in the day job. And as Samantha said, there is so much content out there, especially linked to the coronavirus pandemic, and we did a load of free webinars which are now on our platform where people can go in and have a look at them to help them, because that's what we're all about, is helping the community and helping the industry and being there for our members. And that's one of the most important things for me, to make sure that our members have a voice in us and that we're supporting everybody, talking to each other, coming together and learning from each other as well. The other important one to mention this year was the launch of our mentoring scheme, which is free for members. So it's a pure member benefit, which I love. And some of our normal members will be partnered up with a fellow, and they will be able to mentor them, and they'll agree how that's going to work. But if you are a member and you haven't taken advantage of that, please make sure you do. There's a few nods there, which I'm hoping is I'm doing it and it's really helpful, or I'm going to go and check it out. But it's I know for many people that have been using it, it's been incredibly helpful, especially at this time where things might be a bit difficult in terms of career changes or job challenges or difficult conversations. There's a lot of different elements to stuff going on right now. So it's a huge benefit, and I think something that's really helpful for people as they're trying to navigate such challenging times. So that's kind of a little bit about CIPR and what we're here to do, and some of the journeys around CPD. I could talk a lot about professional development and how to get the best out of it and being intentional and having plans and templates, and but I won't hold the microphone too much longer. But please use the chat and ask any questions you've got. I'd love to hear what your questions are or queries might be, and be able to answer those as well.
That's wonderful. Well, thank you very much, Jenny, for getting us started. When it comes to the issue of chartered assessments, I mean, we've had a number of members in Mauritius who've been asking questions about this, to say, you know, how do we go about it? How do we prepare for it? How do we sign up? How does the process actually work on the day itself? So we're delighted that we actually have Saad with us this evening from Dubai. Saad has actually most recently, I think only a couple of weeks ago, passed the online chartered assessment. So first of all, our warmest congratulations, Saad. Indeed, well done on this great achievement. But I mean, we would all be very interested to know, Saad, I mean, can you just explain a bit how you went about the process? How did you prepare for it in the first place? I mean, what sort of made you feel that now was the right time for you as a professional to actually go ahead and apply for the charter status? How was the process? How was the online experience? If you could just say a few words about that, I think that we would all be delighted to hear it.
Thank you so much, Samantha. And very happy to join the amazing group from Mauritius. I've seen that you are coming from different backgrounds, and that's great to see that. First of all, I'm a Kuwaiti national. I was studying and working in Dubai since 2002. I've worked with the different sectors, starting from the government, non-profit, non-government sector, and recently I'm managing my own boutique agency in Dubai. For the past 5 years, since I quit my job, I find it very difficult to focus on my career development. When I used to work for the government, for example, we have a dedicated HR team who look after our career development and give us the advice according to our level and specialty. But since I started my own business, I found it very difficult to move forward with this regard. I've been very busy in developing and developing my business and serving my clients. So I found the chartership is very useful in terms of structuring the foundations of my career, the public relations field. And I would like to share with you a few things for those of you who have interest to pursue that journey. First of all, I think it's very important to, like what Jenny said, you have to not only understand, but also to practice the code of conduct. It's not just a book that you brag about, but it's also a manual that should guide your work. Starting with the code of conduct, I think it's structured in a very practical way in 4 areas that will touch every single situation you could face in your career. And that would be a great start for your chartership to see what's being available. I'm sure the website of the CIPR and the related manuals and brochures has lots of information on the steps and how to register. So I will not take your time about it, but I will tell you, I will just focus on what's been beneficial to my personal experience. Number 1 was reading the code of conduct and trying to reflect it on my daily situations and my daily conversations with my clients. Secondly, I've seen it very also useful to see the 3 areas which the chartership will examine your capability about it, which is the strategy, leadership, and the ethics, and try to map it with your personal experience and the best practices. Put yourself in real life situations where you have either practiced something, and how do you think it's you have managed to master a leadership role on that, for example, or you could imagine something that's already happening around you. Every day we can see things related to our work, but we just need to see it in the professional eye. Let's say now, for example, what's happening from the major companies who have stopped their advertising campaigns on the social media platforms. Talking about Unilever, Cola, and many others. That was happened for unethical reasons. Let's try to educate ourselves and read about real case studies, and then think backwards how this related to the our code of conduct and how this could be explained in my own words when it comes to the 3 examination points which will be covered in the assessment. The assessment is, maybe once you have seen the structure, you will feel it's kind of long assessment, like 6 or 7 hours, but I can assure you it's very interesting, and you will have it in a very smooth way, very smooth experience, because it's all based on conversations, and there is no need to memorize a specific questions the same way that you maybe experienced in your college or in your previous studies. It's more of a real life experience and perspectives. Sometimes there are no wrong and right, but rather than personal experiences which could be encouraged during the group conversations. I would recommend to Jenny and Samantha, if we can do some tutorials on the website. That would be great, so people will experience some recordings from maybe our experience or the upcoming ones, so people will see how the conversations are going there. And I hope you all the best. I would also just finally conclude with my experience, which I already shared it through CIPR International blog and Influence magazine under I'll try to maybe to share with you the link through Samantha for those who's interested to read more about that experience. And if you have any questions, I'll be more than happy to answer. Thank you.
Yes, well, thank you very much, Saad. In fact, we do have a first question from our colleague Eva McLean in the UK, who says, could you tell us how well understood is the chartership in Dubai currently?
We've been just discussing maybe that recently. It's not yet recognized in the same way that the other, let's say, accreditations are being seen, like, for example, the PMP for the engineers or the CFA for the bankers. It still needs maybe some time, and it's our responsibility to raise awareness about it and to lobby about positioning its brand in the region, in Dubai and in the overall Middle East region.
Great. Well, thank you very much, Saad, for all of your insights. In fact, we'll come back to questions again at the end. So if anyone has any other questions which occur to them between now and then that would be perfect. I'm now going to move on to our colleague Andras. So Andras Stanislav is the chair of CIPR International. So Andras, I'll hand over to you to say a few words about the network and the committee's work and our activities.
Yes, welcome everyone. I'm Andras Stanislav. I'm from Hungary originally. Actually, just as you see just behind me, I'm in Budapest at the moment in my office. So we are after the lockdown or in between the two, but I'm at the office. And I'm chairing the CIPR International, which is one of the 26 group of CIPR voluntary groups. Just like Samantha said, we are one of the largest sectoral groups in the CIPR, within the CIPR, with approximately 1,000 members in 70 countries. But from my perspective, I see a big, so one of the reasons why we are one of the most diverse group is that we have members who are based within the UK and are working in international roles or interested in international communications campaigns. But also we have lots of members, about 1/3 of our members or even more are based outside the UK. So we as a voluntary group have to serve basically both groups, which is sometimes very challenging. In the last couple of years, what we did for the UK members, we organized mainly events, very interesting and with high-profile speakers, very interesting topics, panel discussions, and also lots of peer learning. So we had a series, we still have a series on our website, which is called The Letters From, when the professionals from specific countries tell a few words, tell a few pages about their countries and the media landscape and the PR landscape, which is very, very helpful, and it's free for everyone. And also we did in a different format, which is the Doing PR in webinar series format, where we talked about the same issues. So how to do PR in specific countries. We had a series has about 5 to 7 webinars, which are all available for free for everyone, so for non-members as well. What we did is, because I'm not based in the UK at the moment, since I'm the chair of the CIPR International, I try to lobby as much as possible for members who are based outside the UK, and CIPR head office was very helpful with that. So Samantha and Jenny also told about the digitalization of several activities of the CIPR. So we lobbied for the Influence magazine to go online, which has happened. We lobbied for the chartership assessment to go online and be available for members all over the world, which has also happened. And we try to lobby for local training centers and universities to be recognized or accredited by the CIPR to be able to provide service. I mean, the CIPR high quality service in locals and in regions. And also we support the CIPR with membership drives and like group events like this one. But Graham will be able to tell you a lot more about this in practice. And with regards to communication channels, we have a LinkedIn group, we have a website, we have a Twitter channel, we have a Facebook channel, and we launched an Instagram channel which has no content yet, but we'll be able to put up a couple of contents in an upcoming weeks. And if we turn to my personal views, what I gained or what I got from CIPR over the years as being a member of first became a global affiliate, so it was not a full membership of the CIPR, but Eva McLean, who has been a chair for the CIPR International, she encouraged me or slightly forced me to join the CIPR International Committee, which I'm very happy with. So it's a great group of people working with. And you who are not, some of you are not members, but you have to understand the two different ways CIPR works. So CIPR has a great office. It's an official like headquarter and office with paid people, and they are responsible for running the organization, for trainings, qualifications, chartership, the CPD guidelines and policy papers. But on the other hand, CIPR is also relying a lot on volunteers, and all the groups are made of volunteers. So we do it by putting our hours and free times into serving our members all over the world. So basically, what I would say that your membership works is as more as you put in. So if you are interested and you go to CPD and you do your own learnings, then you can gain a lot. If you don't do anything, it's basically just a stamp on your card that you're a member of the CIPR. I also highly recommend everyone to, once you join the CIPR, even as a global affiliate, to do your CPD. Not only because those are the two steps for being accredited and then get chartered, but also it's a very good learning process. So when the CIPR year starts, you have to set your own goals within the CIPR ladder. So even without the final goal of getting chartered, it's very, very helpful because you set your own goals and you then you do your activities, you plan your activities for your self-development, and also track your activities because you have to log your activities to CPD. And it helps you get accredited after 2 years of continuous CPD running. And then after you have the third year, you can apply for the chartership assessment. And then just as I said, 2 years later, by being global affiliate, I joined the CIPR committee as a regular member, then vice chair, and now the chair. And I can assure you that working in a committee is a lot more fun as well. So it's not only volunteer work and lots of work, and sometimes very challenging work, but lots of fun because CIPR International has our committee has members from around 5, 6, or even more countries. So it's very, very diverse in a way. And we have monthly meetings, but we also became slightly friends. So it's a good opportunity, not only for professional networks, but also for individual and personal networks. So I definitely encourage you to join the CIPR because it's not only a stamp and not only a logo in your business card, but a great community of people, and also a great opportunity to do your self-education and your self-development. So if you have any questions further or even later, you can find me over our website or email if you have like direct questions to me. Thanks very much.
Thank you very much, Andras, for your comments. So what we'll do now is move on to Graham Kinch, who is our CPD and membership manager. I will just mention in relation to questions that once Graham has finished, we will then turn to questions, which either you can continue to ask them on the chat if you have a short question, or if you have a question which is more complicated and you would actually like to speak and to raise it that way, then what you can do is raise your hand. If you see the reactions sort of thread along the bottom, you've got a button which says reactions. If you click on there, you'll see a sort of hands that says raise hand. If you click on that, then I should be able to see it. So if you do want to ask your question that way, that should technology permitting, be possible as well. So now, in the meantime, I will hand over then to Graham Kinch, who can tell us a bit about membership.
Thanks very much, Samantha. Hopefully everybody can hear me okay.
Yes.
Yeah, so as Samantha quite rightly said, I tend to be involved in CPD and membership at the CIPR. I'm the only member of staff at CIPR on this call. So just want to say a big thank you to all the volunteers who are taking part. It really does help us drive things forward, and there are a lot of really committed volunteers that we rely on a lot. So thanks very much for that. The only thing I want to really add to what everyone else has already said about membership really is that we often survey our members and ask them, why did you join the CIPR? And the two big reasons that they generally tend to give is A, professional development, and B, networking opportunities, or the opportunity to broaden their professional network beyond what it already is. So those are the kind of the two key reasons why you should be thinking about joining the CIPR. We've invested quite a lot very recently in more and more online resources. We've got a knowledge panel which has been recently convened. The aim of that is to make sure that the content that we have on our CPD platform is absolutely at the cutting edge of practice and represents the best possible value for members in terms of relevance and topicality, I guess. So that's being improved day by day. And we're also very keen to help improve practice worldwide in public relations communication. So with that in mind, we've been able to lay on some specially discounted rates, especially for anyone attending this session today. So on the screen now, you can see our standard pricing for overseas membership. And there's a discounted rate in place until the end of July, which is £60 for global affiliate. Normally it's £87. And there's also a fee waiver. So normally there's a £55 joining fee if you join at affiliate, associate or member grade. And we're waiving that until the end of July with the discount code Global20. So if you do want to join, having heard what all of our volunteers have had to say on today's session, just head over to cipr.co.uk/join, and you can start an application there. Bear in mind the Global20 code. You can either use that to save £55 off your joining fee, or you can use that to get global affiliate membership for £60. It's worth mentioning, whichever route you go down, it's really important that you put your country in when you're entering your address when you sign up for membership. That way the system knows to allocate you the overseas rate or the specially discounted global affiliate rate. So just put your country in there. It does flag up a reminder, so there will be something on the screen, but it is possible to complete an application without entering a country. So it's worth just bearing that in mind. If you do want the special £60 global affiliate subscription, then you just need to select pay by invoice on the online joining screen. And that's because we need to manually reduce your fee before you pay. So don't select pay online, select pay by invoice. We'll notice that you've entered the Global20 code. We'll reduce your fee accordingly, and we'll email you with a link to pay online shortly afterwards. So I think that's really all I wanted to cover in terms of the special joining rate. By the way, this does apply also to renewing members. So if you're already a global affiliate member and you're coming up for your renewal, then you can email us membership@cipr.co.uk with the Global20 discount code, and we'll reduce your next year's fee from £87 to £60, which we hope will help a little bit.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Graham, for that. It's the offer is definitely appreciated by our members and those interested in joining. I mean, just to give people a quick recap in terms of the conversion with the rupee, as obviously we'll be paying like from here. So the global affiliate fee for now, with a discount until the end of July, is just under 3,000 rupees, even if the amount will be taken in pounds. And then for the member level, it's approximately 10,500 rupees for the year. So that is very helpful for that. So thank you, Graham, and thank you to all of our speakers. I mean, now if we come on to questions, I'm just having a look to see if anyone has yet raised their hands. So now it's the time where if anyone does have a question, then they are more than welcome to do it. So I'm just having a look here to see if there are any other questions coming up currently. Maybe I will just come back to Jenny for a moment while people are still thinking. As probably there will be questions, but people are just wondering how to formulate them. Jenny, can you just give us a bit more from terms of your own perspective? How do you see CIPR moving forwards, like not only this year, but sort of for the next few years? Because we've obviously had quite an organisational change, which has been driven in some respects by, by sort of the COVID situation. In terms of the discussions that you're having about how CIPR is moving forwards, are you able to say a few words about that?
Yeah, sure. I'm happy to pick up the question in the chat afterwards as well, if that's helpful. But from a kind of future perspective for us, it's very much around the strategy that I touched on at the beginning, and that strategy is fixed for the next 4 years. And we've had a look at that. We've done a survey with our members during the pandemic to see whether we need to shift anything or change direction. And it's just reaffirmed that that strategy is the right course of action, and it's what we're going to be sticking with. So that's really encouraging to know that the work that the team did on the strategy last year is the right work and the right focus for us. I think the biggest pivot we will see as an organisation is on the digital side of things and how we're able to open things up a lot more. And Andres touched on the work that the International Committee have been doing to lobby the head office and the board to have more accessibility around the chartered days. It's amazing what a pandemic can do to escalate people's ability to do things. So I'm delighted that we're able to do it so quickly, because it has been a conversation for a long time. And I think it will be more things like that. So the national conference being virtual will allow us to open our doors. And I think there's some conversations around how we look at some of our diversity and inclusion as well. And some of that's on the back of the race report that we published a couple of weeks ago. And that's really important to me, that we look inside at how we are enabling inclusive conversations and more diversity. And some of the ways I want to look at that is around our volunteers, where we might have some individuals who volunteer across lots of different places. And actually, is that the right thing to do for a diverse and inclusive organisation, or should we have some caps around that to make sure that people are able to have a seat and have a voice if they want to? So there's lots of things we can do, lots of conversations that I think we need to have, and that's really a lot of my focus at the moment, is just trying to enable those conversations and see what we can do, but very much aligned to the strategy. And I think that's really important, that people don't think we're going to be tearing that up and starting something again. We've tested it with the membership, and we're very confident that it is the right direction for us and where we need to keep going, and it's broad enough to allow us to focus on very specific tasks each year, which is really important.
Great. Well, we now do have a few questions that people have thought of in the meantime, so that's great. So the first question then is back on the online assessment. So we might be looking in the direction of SARDS possibly for some thoughts here, and maybe Jenny as well, if you also have any ideas. So the question is, how long does it take to prepare for the online assessments? Does taking CPD courses on the CIPR count in obtaining the chartered title? So in fact, well, also Graham is obviously our CPD manager. So I don't know, perhaps we'll start with you, Graham. Maybe you can just explain how it all fits together. So you've got CPD on the one hand, you eventually end up getting chartered status. Can you explain, Graham, the pathway from starting off with your CPD now, moving through the different parts of the journey until you get to the chartered status?
Yeah, thanks for that. So essentially, we see CPD, or commitment to continuing professional development, as a baseline starting point to start thinking about getting chartered. So to be even eligible to sit a chartered assessment day, you need to show that you've done at least 3 years of continuing professional development in the lead up to booking onto the assessment day. And that doesn't have to be with the CIPR. You may have done learning, in fact, you probably will have done learning elsewhere, even if you're a new member, you've only just joined. As long as you can demonstrate that you've been doing continuous professional development for 3 years, then you're eligible to sit the assessment day. So it's a benchmark, it's a bare minimum, it's one of the criteria for being able to book onto the chartered assessment day itself. But also it's seen as so important that even once you are chartered, to retain your chartered status, you need to keep doing CPD year in, year out, after having gained chartered status, to retain it. So we do check if you are a chartered member and for some reason you stopped doing CPD, then your chartered status could be withdrawn. So it's critical. It underpins everything about chartered status, essentially. So it kind of before and after becoming chartered.
That's great. So well, maybe I'll hand over to Jenny. I mean, Jenny, I don't know how long ago it was you did your chartered assessments. I mean, what was your experience of it?
Yeah, it was. I think it was 2 years ago. I think now I want to say. And I would say that in terms of the preparation, everyone is very individual. I'm sure that Saad's got some great advice there as well. But for me, I'm quite a last minute individual. So I tend to do things very close to when I'm about to do them, from a memory perspective, or just being more present in that. So it's a lot of reading. It's a lot of looking at the case studies that you're provided with. But if you are doing CPD already, you'll be quite familiar with how you learn and how that works for you. So you do have to be familiar with the code of conduct, and you have to come with examples. I think it's really important what Saad said around the fact that it's not about the theory or the academic side so much. It's definitely focused on your experience. It's focused on what you've done and how you can talk about that through that conversation to bring examples into that. And even if you can't, say my experience in ethical challenges is quite limited, but I can contribute to the conversation in a way linked to the code of conduct and linked to other reading and things that I've done that enabled me to be part of that. So that's, from a preparing perspective, that's really down to you. And I did mine in person because I'm based in the UK, and it was in London, and it was a really good day. It's exhausting from just a brain capacity because you're paying attention. It's very active listening. It's good conversation. But I've left the chartered day with some new friends actually, and some people that I still am connected with, and it's quite an experience to go through. But it was a really lovely day.
Excellent. So Saad, I don't know whether you have any other comments to add. I mean, I realise that you did already address the points to some extent earlier, but I mean, any further thoughts in terms of how one can prepare for the assessments?
Yeah, I would say that the good thing that you will get ahead of time, like 2 weeks period to the assessment, you will get some, let's say, preparation materials. You will get some, let's say, triggering questions in each of the assessment areas, in the 3 areas of the assessment. So you get set up questions to help you think about how you deal with each of these assessment areas. And the assessment areas are strategy, leadership, and ethics. That's 1. 2, you will be asked also to prepare 2 years CPD. That will not be marked or assigned discussion with your fellows and colleagues to discuss what you have in mind for the next 2 years.
Okay. Well, thank you very much, Saad, for your comments. We'll now move on to another question, which is how can one contribute to CIPR?
Sorry, Samantha. Just wanted to jump in with a couple of answers. Yes. So there is a very good webinar, and I'm sure if I find it, I'll let you circulate it. There is a very good webinar for preparation for the online assessment. So I think a couple of months back, 2 or 3 already chartered practitioners put together a webinar on how they prepared for the webinar, what were the questions, what were the topics, and how they went through the whole preparation and the assessment day. It's very, very useful. Even it's available for everyone. Again, it's for free. So if you're interested in doing the chartership, then it's worth watching. That's one thing. The second one is what Graham just went through from an HQ perspective, but for my experience, how the CPD looks like. If most of you are not familiar with it, you set your goals in the beginning of the year, and you have to collect 60 points to finish the CPD year. And once you do activities, so CIPR has lots of activities on the CIPR ladder, around almost 2,000 different kinds of activities, like reading guidelines, reading best practice guides, watching webinars, which were produced or are produced by the CIPR, but also you can log your individual activities. So once you read a book which is interesting but was not listed in the CPD letter, then you're also very welcome to log it. And once you collect the 60 points, then you will have 1 year submitted. So that's fine. After the second year of continuous doing the CPD points, you will get automatically, as far as I'm concerned, automatically get accredited. So after 2 years, you don't have to take any additional exams, you'll get accredited. But then you have to be a full member of the CIPR. So global affiliates, yeah, Graham is nodding, so I'm right with that. So you have to be a full member to get accredited. But if you are still a global affiliate and you do 2 or 3 or 4 years of continuously doing the CPD, then once you become a full member, you immediately get your accredited status. And then after the 3rd year of continuous doing the CPD, then you can apply for the chartership.
Great, thank you very much then, Andras. So I'll move on then to another question where, Andras, I might ask this to you as well, which is how can one contribute to CIPR as a volunteer, which comes from our colleague Nishka.
Yeah, so I would have 2 very quick answers and then give it over to anyone else. So one, if you want to volunteer, you can ask Jenny how to volunteer, because a president's role is a voluntary role as well. So if you're very enthusiastic and very ambitious, then you can run for the presidency. But also everyone can ask you, Samantha, as well, because you're doing some local volunteering. But at the same time, you're also helping us, our committee, to do the overall communication and overall implementation. What we basically, as a first step, what we basically ask for people who'd like to volunteer for CIPR is if they have in a country where we don't have the letters from, that they are very happy to, we are very happy to have them prepare the letters from, covering the specific country. They can also write blog posts for our website. They can help with the committee. They can help the committee with communications and all different kinds of activities, which are the general central CIPR International committee work or voluntary work. But just like Samantha, you in Mauritius, so we have people from, we have one from Singapore, one from Latin America, one from Switzerland. We have a Swiss chapter as well. And once you are happy to do voluntary work for your local peers, PR professionals, then it's also eligible to log as a CPD volunteers form.
Great. Well, Jenny, as our volunteer who's become the president, would you like to say a few words on that?
Yeah. So I've been a volunteer for 6 years, and I've had various different roles through different committees. I think I'd encourage you to think about why you want to volunteer. So sometimes there might be a topic that's really of interest to you, and that might help you navigate which group or which part of CIPR you want to be part of. But it also might be really good to talk to someone like Andras in terms of anything from an international perspective, where you might think, oh, it'd be really good if there was some content on this topic, or I've noticed that this is a bit of a gap. I was talking to someone this week who is already a volunteer, and he was talking about some gaps in public affairs, and he really wants to go and do some work on that and looking into it and doing a report. So it's those kind of conversations that are really great, because the more we can do things to advance the practice and advocate for the profession, the better. There's lots of different ways. Andras is the best point of contact from an international perspective, but also you can reach out to me, and if you've got specific interests in climate change or energy or anything like that, there we've got different panels and groups that are really happy to have a bit of a conversation. But it's just finding that first way in, and then I think once you've done that, you can navigate your way around wherever you want to go, depending on what's interesting to you.
Great. Well, thank you then, Jenny. We'll now move on to another topic, which is more to do with courses. So I will perhaps send this in the direction of Graham. So the question is, do you have the possibility to chat with someone who will be able to provide guidance on where to start and which courses will be more appropriate in relation to your personal and professional goals? So maybe you could just speak a bit, Graham, about how the CPD database actually works in practice, just to give a bit of guidance on that point.
Yeah, absolutely. So as Andres spoke about a bit earlier, one of the key things about CPD is putting in your goals. So at the beginning of starting out, you need to decide what it is you're looking to achieve from your professional development activities that year. And we can help with that. So if you're not quite sure where to start, the best thing to do is drop us an email through to membership@cipr.co.uk, and we'll find a time to phone you and speak to you and talk you through the options, what's available, listen to your objectives and make some suggestions to help you. So we're more than happy to do that.
Great, thank you very much then, Graham. So now moving on to a question from Vishal, which is, what are the challenges you see for CIPR during the pandemic and also probably during the recovery, which we hope will be soon? Who would like to answer that? Jenny, would you like to make a start on it?
I'll absolutely make a start. So I think it's a really interesting question around the challenges that the CIPR, I guess, has faced, and some of that is around having an agile enough organisation to respond. And I think that's something that we have learnt as an institute, as is the same for many professional bodies. So there's a lot of professional bodies looking at how they're structured, how they work, to look at that agility that's needed in order to respond quickly. And I think that's something that I know that as I said, sort of other industry bodies are going to be looking at. There is also something around looking at making sure that your product, I have a big belief that your products and service, whatever you do, should be solving a problem for somebody else. So I'm a big believer in making sure that whatever I'm doing, whether that's in my professional business life or whether it's as a volunteer, I'm helping to solve a problem that somebody has got. So that was my big question for us as CIPR, is what are the problems people are having and how can we solve them? And I think that's a challenge sometimes as an organisation to respond as quickly as we want to. But I've certainly seen a huge ability to adapt from the team at head office, and the content that we offer and the ability to find speakers and trainers and all of that. And we've moved at a pace that the CEO and I were talking about the other week, as we were as a board, about the fact that this is amazing how quickly we've done things, as Andras can attest to the lobbying he's had to do in the past for stuff, and I know Eva before him. So I think they're some of the challenges, and making sure that what we used to do physically translates digitally. And that's a topic that's coming up for PR and communication practitioners around the world, is, you can't just lift something and shift it online. It needs a very different consideration. It's a different environment. It's a different way of absorbing content. And I think just thinking about that and how to do things differently so that it's as engaging and as beneficial to members and non-members is one of our challenges that we are continuing to learn as we launch training fully virtually, which we've never done.
Great. Well, there's one more, Jenny, which I think might also be for you, which is just on the topic of doing things differently. We have a question from Shruti, which is, what kind of creative innovation has the PR industry witnessed? So going beyond ourselves at CIPR, but the industry itself, what have we seen in terms of the crisis, and what can we learn from it?
Yeah, I mean, there's so much content out there. I know that Eva wrote a really good blog, which is on the Influence magazine website, which is open to everybody, about some of the learnings and stuff from the pandemic. So I'd encourage people to have a look at that. Gosh, there's so much. I think the biggest thing for me is actually the learning that the skills that we've talked about needing as practitioners for a very long time are not any different during this pandemic than the skills we've been talking about the last 5 years. So I think that there's a bit of a realization there that actually when it comes to business acumen or some of the skills, it's much the same that we need. In terms of that kind of creative innovation space, I'm not actually, I can't think of any examples where I've seen something and thought, wow, that's really creative and innovative, that isn't around using technology in a better way. There's been quite a lot of that, but it's also brought a lot of things home for organizations around purpose, leadership, empathy, humanity, human beings first, those kind of things. And I don't know that that's necessarily really creative and innovative, but I think I've certainly witnessed a shift in the industry talking more about those things, and society globally talking more about those things, and the messages and what governments are talking about and how people are responding and how clear things are. I think that's something that will be interesting to see what happens after the pandemic. Now there's been such a focus on communications from governments around the world and the actions of leadership in a way that we've never ever seen before. But some of my colleagues on the call might have seen some really great creative and innovative examples that they would want to share. So I don't want to hog that one for too long.
I'll also hand over to Andras. Andras, do you have any thoughts on this topic? Any particular examples of innovation from different parts of the world that you've seen?
I try to think about very creative and very innovative things, but I would just echo what Jenny has said, because I think the creativity, and I'm seeing it from a very strategic perspective, is that basically the world has, and the pandemic has proven the importance of communication and public relations. So what we were preaching for decades, even centuries, that we at the same time have to focus on the data and facts and figures, but look at the human element. And the pandemic and all these COVID issues just emphasize the importance of both. So in the last couple of years, everyone was talking about digitalization, and sometimes, the boardroom thought that PR is just lacking behind. So it's not coming up with the same speed of digitalization. Now, it was no question that everyone had to go digital, but it was also no questions that just being digital and missing the human element would not work. So those like balance issue and Libra issue was also very important. Also, what I think is, and that's slightly creative, I would say, is that the humor and the fun factor came in. So when everyone was at lockdown, especially in Central Eastern Europe, because I have that experience, that brands were just jumping into like how our brand is related to baking bread at home or doing yoga at home. And it's not just the small and medium enterprises, but even big brands were creating communication activities. So for example, a beer company in Hungary, they just produced their PR and also advertisements via mobile phones from home, and it was broadcasted everywhere. So these creativity just jumped into the situation, and big brands also jumped into the creative industry. But also, I would just go the mic to Saad, because he might have some other insights from the Middle East.
Yes, absolutely. Please, Saad, if you have any thoughts on how the Middle East has been handling the crisis, and any wider thoughts on communications in the region, that would be most interesting. If Saad is there.
Yeah, sorry. I think here there is more and raising attention to the behavioral change and how to apply it into the communication practice. The governments here are much interested in how to apply the nudging concepts and to encourage people to take actions rather than just to raise awareness, because they need people to wear masks, and they need people to do a proper social distancing and other restrictions, and that needs to be applied and to change to their daily lifestyle, which they never used to do. So I think the importance and of the behavioral change nowadays is very clear through our governments. The other side is the digital, I think, communication, which is absolutely maybe it's almost 100% shift to the digital communication. I will just share on the conversation a very nice initiative by the UN, where they have opened the first open brief for the creative and PR practitioners around the world to share their ideas and to map it with the objectives of the UN and the WHO in tackling the COVID-19. It's a very nice initiative, and you will see very nice and creative ideas. I will share it in the chat for everyone who's interested to read about it more.
Excellent. Well, thank you very much, then, Saad. I don't know if we have any further questions, so I don't know if, Jenny, we would ask you if you just want to say a few words in closing before we wind up the meeting.
Sure, I can see Eva waving frantically in my screen, so I'm going to go to her because she's obviously got something incredibly important to add.
Okay, I'm sorry, Eva, that I can't see you waving. So
that's all right. You're on mute, Eva. So if you want to.
Yes, thank you very much, Jenny. I did have my hand up. It took me a while to find where it was actually, but then
there you are. Sorry.
I just wanted to say one thing, that one of the things that I've been particularly interested in is that we've actually all talked about communications far more than we ever have in our whole lives publicly. I'm talking about now. Is the government communicating well? Is it communicating badly? Is the messaging right? Which leaders are communicating well? And I do think that most people have seen the value that good public relations actually can bring to the well-being of society altogether. I mean, it's been absolutely essential during this pandemic. And it's interesting, some people may not agree with me, but actually the female leaders have been singled out as being particularly good. Obviously the New Zealand one, and Angela Merkel, and various other ones around the world. So the one thing that I would like to think is that following after all the COVID communication is finished and we're back to some sort of normality, is that people will remember how important communications really is. It's absolutely vital in any sphere. And maybe they'll reflect back on it and think, yes, well, that was an important learning that I can take away from the COVID pandemic. So that's the one thing I wanted to add.
Well,
I think yeah.
Yes, thank you, Eva. I mean, indeed, it's obviously been a matter of life and death. I mean, in Mauritius, we've been lucky that we've actually had fairly few cases, and now we only have a handful that are all in quarantine. But I mean, here we did have very effective government communications, as I would imagine most people on the call would agree. But I mean, I think that's right. This year has shown us that communications, getting it right, is actually as important as life and death itself. So it's no longer a sort of nice to have. A sort of a discipline. It's something which is absolutely vital, both to daily life and to also now to how we'll be running our businesses in recovery, and how that has to be handled well also from a communication standpoint. So yes, I'm just having a look here. Sorry, Eva, I didn't see your hand waving there. But it's like I don't see any other waving hands just now. So I will perhaps once again hand back to Jenny just to say a few words to close, and then we will wind up the meeting.
Lovely, thank you very much. I think just the comments there from Eva really cement a lot of the stuff for me in terms of what we're finding at the moment. And I think it's just a real opportunity. And as challenging as these times are for us, and often the hours that we're working and the collision of home and work that we found ourselves in a lot of the time, there is an opportunity here for us to have those conversations that we might not have felt able to have before. And also to have the conversations with people that we might not have had access to before. And I just encourage everybody to really embrace that opportunity and not let it go by the wayside, because it's really important for us to have that voice and have those conversations and talk about the role that communications and PR can play. And from an individual perspective, when it comes to being a member of CIPR or just your general professional development, I have a template that I shared with people on a call last week for their CPD, which is the one that I used for the chartership. So if that's helpful for anybody, if it helps people with their thinking, I'm happy to share that a bit further as well. But just think about the things that you want to learn, and then decide what the way is that you want to learn those things, which I know makes it sound very simple. But for me, sometimes it is reading a book, other times it might be going to a conference to learn more about an international culture. So there's lots of different ways of doing things, but be intentional, have a plan, and think about the benefits and opportunities that can come with just networking and finding some friendships and some peers, because it's been brilliant for me over the last 6 years, and I'd encourage anyone to do the same.
Wonderful. Well, thank you very much, Jenny, for that for those closing remarks. I would say if anyone else has any other particular questions, and all of the people on the line do actually have my contact details, so anyone can feel free to contact me at any time. It's like I can obviously direct you in the direction of Graham or other colleagues if we have specific queries that occur to you later on. But above all, I'd like to thank all of our participants this evening. It's been wonderful to have you all, Jenny, Graham, Andras, and also Saad and Eva as well. And Shirley, thank you all for joining, and it's been our pleasure, and we hope to see you all soon. Thanks very much. Thank you. Bye-bye, everyone. Bye.